Honor. Dr. Wolfe, thank you for joining us again this morning. I'd like to draw your attention to a picture. I'm going to... May I approach you?
Yes.
I'm going to show you. Have you ever seen that photograph?
Yes.
You were shown this photograph last week, is that right?
Correct.
By Mr. Brennan, correct?
Correct.
Do you recognize the photo as the same photo that you were shown last week?
Yes.
Under questioning by Mr. Brennan?
Yes.
And what does that appear to be a photo of, just generally?
It appears to be a photo from the test dummy from the 29 mile per hour impact test.
Does that appear to be a true and accurate photograph of the condition of the dummy following that 29 mile an hour crash test?
Yes.
With the court's permission, I'd like to enter this as next in order, please. If you could hand that to the court order. Is this the photograph?
Yes.
Dr. Wolfe, first of all, what caused the damage? Well, let's start with the most basics. Which arm is this, left or right?
This is the left arm.
What position was, you called this dummy Rescue Randy, is that right?
Correct,
What
yes.
position generally was Rescue Randy in upon impact during this test?
He was oriented such that the right side of his body and his right arm would be contacted by the vehicle.
What caused the defects in the and the damage to the sweatshirt as we see it here?
That was due to the interaction from the Rescue Randy sliding on the pavement surface to his position of final rest.
Is that sometimes called road rash?
Yes.
Did you see any road rash in any other place on Rescue Randy in this photograph?
Doesn't appear so in this photograph, no.
Can we highlight the face? What about there?
Sorry, I thought you were talking specific to the clothing. Yes, as I mentioned on Friday, there were signs of road rash to the body of the dummy itself, on the face and on the torso and arms.
Can we zoom in on the sleeve a little bit? Do you see any staining on the sleeve as well as the defects, the holes and the tears?
Yes.
What is that staining from?
Again, just from that sliding contact with the pavement, so it's just likely debris and kind of a film from the pavement surface being deposited onto the material.
With regard to John O'Keefe's sweatshirt that you reviewed photographs of, did you see any other defects other than the right arm and the fact that it was cut off of him medically?
No.
Any other indication or any indication whatsoever of anything that you see consistent with road rash?
No.
Okay, let's go back to the full frame. The second image I'd like you to take a look at. If we can have the lights for just a second.
Yes.
How do you recognize it?
It is the backside of the test dummy from the 29 mile per hour full-on impact test.
Which arm is featured in that photograph?
That would be the right arm.
Move that into evidence as next in order, Your Honor, with the court's permission.
Okay. Exhibit 219.
Permission to display.
Yes.
Does that appear to be the right arm of Rescue Randy as he's face down?
Yes.
Is that following the impact?
Yes.
Do you see any? Were you shown this photograph by Mr. Brennan on cross-examination?
No, I was not.
Can we highlight the right sleeve just a little bit, please? You see that defect in the sleeve?
Yes.
Do you also see some artifacts above that defect, above and to the left?
Yes.
Can you tell what those are?
They appear to be fragments from the back window of the test vehicle when it shattered.
Does there appear to be any additional, let's go back to the full frame, does there appear to be any additional defects on that particular sleeve?
There appears to be some material transfer, likely from the pavement, and also some road rash.
Does that appear to be transfer from the pavement?
I think that might be a shard of glass from the back window.
What was the condition of the back window after this test?
It was completely shattered.
Okay. The defect that we're looking at, that large gash, was that from road rash sliding on the pavement?
Yes.
If we can go back to the full frame, please. I'd like to show you an additional photograph. Do you recognize what's depicted in that photograph?
Yes.
What is it?
It is the front side of the test dummy from the 29 mile per hour full-on impact test.
Does that appear to be a true and accurate depiction of the condition of Rescue Randy in that sweatshirt after that 29 mile an hour impact?
Yes.
Move for the admission of that photograph, Your Honor, is next in order.
Okay.
Can you describe what we're looking at in this photograph?
This is mainly showing the upper body of the test dummy from the 29 mile an hour impact test, showing the road rash to the front side of the body.
Were you shown this photograph on cross-examination?
No.
What caused the holes in the bodice of the shirt? In other words, the part that covers the chest and the torso.
After the impact, the dummy was projected and sliding on the pavement surface. So again, this is consistent with the front side of the body making sliding contact with the pavement, creating those abrasions and holes, and again, that asphalt material transfer that you see on the front.
Can you go back to the full frame, please? Do you see additional road rash? Take a look at his right arm. You see additional road rash on Rescue Randy?
Yes.
On both the fabric and the arm itself?
Correct.
Go back to full frame. And can you see his face as well in this photograph?
Yes.
Are those the chin and nose defects that you saw?
Yes.
Are the defects in the shirt that you see here consistent with the condition of the shirt of John O'Keefe as you saw it in the photographs?
It is inconsistent.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Another photo that I'd like to show you. Do you recognize what's depicted in that photograph?
Yes.
What is that? We can take this down.
It is the rest position of the test dummy after the 29 mile per hour impact test.
Were you shown this on Friday?
No.
Is that a true and accurate depiction of the condition of Rescue Randy just from a different angle after that 29 mile an hour impact?
Yes.
Move for the admission of that photograph.
Okay. Exhibit 221.
Permission to display that photograph, Your Honor?
Yes.
Is this an overview of the entire body of Rescue Randy after that impact?
Yes.
Take a look at his torso, the exposed portion of his torso. Do you see road rash on his exposed torso?
Yes.
Do you also see that the road rash that you earlier described on the bodice of the shirt, the front of the shirt?
Yes.
And what about, let's go back to the full frame. Is there also road rash on his jeans?
Yes.
If we could go back to full frame. Have you ever heard a phrase, knocked out of your shoes?
Yes.
Where are the dummy shoes?
They're still on his feet.
And this is at an impact of 29 miles per hour, correct?
Watch the form of the question.
Sure.
Jackson.
What was tell us one more time, what was the speed of this impact?
This was a full-on 29 mile per hour impact.
Take a look at that photograph and tell me if you recognize what's depicted in it.
Yes.
What is that?
It is the back of the test Lexus after the 29 mile per hour impact test.
Is that a true and accurate depiction of the condition of that Lexus following that 29 mile an hour impact?
Yes, and I should be more specific. It's post the 29 mile per hour impact with the test dummy, not just the arm.
Understood. Thank you. The collision that caused the damage to Rescue Randy that we've just been looking at?
Correct, yes.
Okay. Is this the photograph that we were just talking about?
Yes.
And this is the condition of the vehicle after that rearward impact with Rescue Randy, correct?
Correct.
Did the subject vehicle photographs that you looked at, were those consistent or inconsistent with this photograph?
Those photographs were inconsistent compared to the test.
Was there anything consistent about the shirt that you were shown on Friday, the left sleeve that you were shown on Friday with John O'Keefe's actual sweatshirt?
Was any of that consistent with?
Correct. Was that consistent or inconsistent, now that you've seen all the photographs, with the condition of the shirt that John O'Keefe was wearing on January 29th?
The test clothing was inconsistent compared to that of Mr. John O'Keefe's.
Thank you. You were asked on cross-examination several times about the weight of the Hybrid 3 arm. Do you recall that series of questions?
Yes.
You were asked how much lighter the Hybrid 3 arm was than the static estimate arm, correct?
Correct.
I want to make sure we're clear about this. The Hybrid 3 arm is the physical arm that you attached to the ATD and did testing with, correct?
Correct.
The statistical estimate arm is something in the ether, right? It doesn't exist?
Sustained.
How would you describe a statistical estimate arm?
It's probably from taking a sample of the population and getting an average and a high and a low.
Okay. Is that a physical arm you can touch and feel?
No.
Okay. Do you have any information based on everything that you've reviewed at all about the actual weight of John O'Keefe's right arm?
Nothing in terms of a weighed measurement of the arm, no.
Okay. What was the percentage that Mr. Brennan gave you in terms of how much lighter the Hybrid 3 arm was than the statistical estimate arm that he gave you?
From what I recall, I think the percentage was 26%.
Did you calculate that yourself, or did you take Mr. Brennan's word for it?
I believe I took his word for it.
Do you recall what the weight of the Hybrid 3 arm was exactly?
9.38 pounds.
What is the difference, if you can calculate, what is the difference between what was the statistical estimate arm, the number that Mr. Brennan gave you?
I think I heard him say 11.8, but I also think he said at one point 11.6, so I'm not sure of the final number he landed on.
Sustained estimate. Ask the question. Strike in the end.
Does 11.86 sound right?
Yes.
Okay. Let's use 11.86. Do you have a calculator with you?
I do.
With the court's permission, could Dr. Wolfe use a calculator if he needs to?
Yes.
Thank you. What's the difference between 11.86 and 9.38? Just in raw numbers?
You're looking at just the difference between those two?
Subtract
Okay.
9.38.
Yep. 2.48.
Does that mean there's a 2.48 pound differential between the statistical estimate arm, the heavier arm, and the 9.38 arm from the hybrid 3?
Yes, that's the difference in pounds.
All right. How would you calculate how much lighter? What's the proper way to calculate how much lighter, in terms of percentage, the 9.38 arm is?
You would want to do a percent difference calculation.
Divide 2.48 by 11.86?
Sustained. Watch the form, Mr. Jackson.
How would you tell the jurors how you would calculate that percentage difference?
You would subtract the 11.86 minus the 9.38, and then you would divide by the sum of those two and divide by 2, the average of them.
Can you do that calculation?
Yes. Okay.
And what's the number?
23%.
Not 26%?
Sustained.
Is 23% smaller or larger than 26%?
Sustained. Let's move on from that, Mr. Jackson.
What is the number that you get if you were to divide 2.48 by 11.86?
.21.
In percentages?
21%.
Thank you. Was the hybrid 3-arm 21% lighter by that calculation than the 11.86 estimate arm?
Yes.
On cross-examination, Mr. Brennan asked you several questions related to kinetic energy formula, correct?
Correct.
You referenced that. Did you reference that formula in some of your answers?
Yes.
May I approach?
Yes.
May I inquire?
Yes.
You're looking at something that's been identified, a document that's been identified as 3 X's, XXX. Do you recognize that? Oh, you're not looking at it.
Not yet.
You see it now.
Yes.
Do you recognize what that is?
It is the formula for kinetic energy.
With that, Your Honor, may we display the formula? We don't have to cut the lights. I think it'll be very obvious.
Yes.
Can we bring the lights back up and see if that's visible? Can you still see that, Dr. Wolfe?
Yes.
Your Honor, is that okay?
Yes.
Great. You said this is the formula for kinetic energy, correct?
Correct.
You were asked a series of questions about whether the weight differential in the hybrid 3-arm would make a significant or material difference in your testing as it pertains to the velocity of the vehicle that you were testing. You remember those questions?
So watch the form. Ask it differently.
Just foundationally, were you asked about weight differential of the hybrid 3-arm?
Yes.
Were you also asked about whether it would make a material difference to the testing if you didn't adjust for the velocity?
Sustained.
What were you asked in terms of, what was the question that was posed to you about the weight of the hybrid 3-arm versus the velocity of the testing?
That there would somehow be an influence on, I think, wanting to make a reduction to the velocity of the vehicle.
Does that make mathematical sense to you?
Sustained is to that point.
Would that have a material difference? With the weight of the arm at 2.48 pounds, would that have a material difference in the testing that you undertook?
No.
Why is that?
Well, to start, that's one of the reasons why we went above and beyond the 24 miles per hour to to impart significantly more kinetic energy to the arm. So if you look at that equation, it's a quadratic equation because you're squaring the velocity. So if you double the velocity, you quadruple the amount of kinetic energy. So you get a significant increase in small changes in speed because of that speed differential.
Did you do a test with just the hybrid arm contacting the taillight at 24 miles per hour?
Yes.
Did you also do a test with that hybrid 3-arm contacting the vehicle at 29 miles per hour?
Yes.
I'd like to talk about those two tests. Okay? Can you explain to the jurors what they're looking at? I want to start with going from left to right. What does the E sub K mean in that formula?
So that stands for kinetic energy, which is the amount of energy that an object has when it's in motion and has a velocity to it.
What is the 1/2 on the other side of the equal sign?
Just a constant.
And what does the M, as in Mary, stand for?
So that would be the mass, in this case, the mass of the arm.
And what's the V, as in Victor?
That would be the velocity of the arm as it's accelerated.
Why is there an exponent at the top of the V?
Because you're squaring that. So you're basically multiplying the velocity times itself. So it would be velocity times velocity.
Is this a formula that's traditionally used in accident reconstruction?
Yes, it's very common.
Is it sort of one of the foundational formulas? When did you learn this formula?
Probably back in high school physics.
I'm going to ask you, if you wouldn't mind, to walk the jurors through a calculation dealing with the 24-mile-an-hour test using the 11.86 pound statistical arm as an assumption of the weight of the arm.
Okay.
You
Your Honor,
understand?
may I have a pen and paper to write?
May I approach you, Your Honor?
Yes.
I have a pad here too, if whatever's easiest.
Okay. Whatever is easiest. If you assume the mass of 11.86, that's the statistical arm weight, and you assume the V for velocity is 24 in miles per hour. I don't care about the units, doctor. Just assume 11.86 and 24. Can you calculate this quadratic equation?
Yes.
What do you get? I want to do it step by step. What's the result of squaring 24?
So you're not concerned about the units.
I do not want to talk about units.
Just okay.
If you mention the word joules, my head will explode.
That's I didn't know if you wanted Newton meters, foot pounds. Okay.
Stop it.
So
Immediately.
just 24 squared
Correct.
is 576.
Do you always, in this calculation, do you always use the exponent first? Do you always do the square first?
Sustain.
What's the first thing that you do in solving for this equation?
You would want to square the velocity, but it's ultimately all going to be multiplied. But yes, you would square the velocity, multiply by itself.
What's the next step after you get 576?
Again, assuming we're not concerned about units, you would multiply by the 11.86.
Can you do that for me and tell me the answer?
How many decimal places do you want? Nearest whole number?
2.
Okay. 6,831.36.
What's the next step once you get that number?
You would multiply by 1/2 or 0.5.
Can you do that for us, please?
That'd be 3,415.68.
What does that represent in terms of the energy into the taillight? I realize that we're not dealing with the proper units, but does that represent anything as it relates to the energy that's imparted on the taillight?
That would be the energy to the arm.
Okay.
that's being transferred.
Understood. 3,415.68. Is that right?
Correct.
And that was at what mile per hour?
24.
Let's move to a different equation.
Okay.
Now I'd like you to presume different numbers.
I don't know what the question is.
Can you do the same calculation using the 9.38 pound arm that you actually used in your testing for the mass?
Yes.
And can you use the velocity of the actual test you did of 29 miles per hour?
Okay. And same thing, not worried about units?
Correct.
Okay.
What's the first thing you do in solving that equation?
So if you square the 29 miles per hour, you will get 841.
What's the next thing you do?
You multiply by 9.38.
What's the number?
7,888.58.
And what's the next thing you do in the equation?
You multiply by 1/2 or 0.5.
And what's that final number?
3,944.29.
That would be the number or the amount of energy imparted on the arm at 29. Is that right? 29 miles per hour?
So ask it differently.
Sure. What is that 3,944.29 number? What does that mean in terms of the kinetic energy?
That would be the kinetic energy that the arm has if it were moving at 29 miles per hour and weighed 9.38 pounds.
One final calculation. What is the percentage difference between 39, 44, 29 and the other test that we just did, or the other calculation, 34, 15, 68?
So in terms of a percent difference, again, when you're subtracting the two and then dividing by the sum divided by 2, so that's basically the average of the sum, it is 14% difference.
Which of the two tests, the two energy equations that you just did, which represents the higher kinetic energy imparted to the arm? The 24 mile an hour test, that's the hypothetical, or the actual test at 29 miles an hour? Which one?
The 29 mile per hour speed with the arm weight of 9.38.
What does that mean, Dr. Wolfe, in terms of the testing that you did with the lighter arm, 9.38 pound arm, at the 29 mile an hour test, as it compares to the hypothetical 24 mile an hour test?
It would be more force and more energy in the 29 mile per hour impact test.
Even though you used a lighter arm? Objection.
Sustains.
And what was your opinion and conclusion as it pertained to the subject taillight using the 29 mile an hour test? What was your opinion and conclusion as it pertains to the subject taillight? Was that consistent or inconsistent with the damage that you saw on the 29 mile an hour test?
It was inconsistent.
Thank you, Your Honor. That's all I have.